Hey guys, Nushell Profit is here, and in this video for newbies I want to show you the proper, in my opinion, way to install Nushell on macOS. I have a virtual machine here with a freshly updated macOS Sonoma and no other software installed. In the Nushell book we have a chapter on installing Nushell. There are various ways to do that. Today we will use Homebrew. We open the Homebrew homepage, copy this bash one-liner and open terminal, which you can find using Spotlight. Before we proceed, I suggest that you increase the font size in your terminal if the default is too small. I usually use a 14-point size. After increasing the font size, I'm ready to continue. I paste the copied command into my terminal and press Enter. I enter my login password, then I confirm the installation of Xcode command line tools. Then it's time to wait while my Mac downloads and installs all the necessary files. Now we execute the commands listed in the next steps chapter. The first one, the next one. And now we are ready for Homebrew. Let's first execute the command brew search Nushell. We found it. It works. We can install Nushell via brew install Nushell. Now we can launch Nushell by typing the new command. It will ask if we want to create a new environment settings file with defaults in it. I confirm. Then it will ask if we want to create a new config file. I say yes here too. Freshly installed Nushell is waiting for our first command. Let's complete what I consider to be a proper bare bones setup, which includes a few more steps. First, let me show you that if I execute config new, it will tell us that the environment variable env editor is not set, so Nushell doesn't know which text editor to use for editing the config file. For newbies, I recommend starting with installing and using Visual Studio Code. We can install Visual Studio Code using Homebrew. Brew install --cask Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is a very user-friendly text editor. An important feature for me there is Nushell language extension. So Visual Studio Code is able to provide syntax highlighting for us. Installation complete. Let's try to launch Visual Studio Code from our shell by typing code. And it works. However, for those who installed Visual Studio Code not using Homebrew, if you type code into the shell and receive an error that it is not found, you can try to open VS Code in your macOS, press Command-Shift-P there and select the option Install Code Command in Path. Then you should be able to launch code from your terminal. Next, we can click Mark Done here. Then we open the extension pane and search for Nushell. Then we install the found extension. Now, when we have our friendly text editor set up, we can conveniently edit the Nushell environment config file. I check the box and click Open in the security pop-up. And we have a beautifully highlighted file on our screen. At the very end of this file, I add the new line with env editor equals to code. I save this file. I launch a new instance of Nushell with our recent changes applied. And now config new opens the configuration file in VS Code automatically. And as the last thing in this tutorial, I suggest that you change the history file format setting to SQLite. Let me demonstrate what will change after we apply this setting. In the current session, the history file format is plain text. This means that when we execute history -l, we will have only one column with commands and no additional information about them. But when we launch Nushell with the new settings applied, we can execute, for example, ls commands to fill our empty history. And when we execute the command history-l, it will show us additional information about our commands, like timestamp, session ID, and the current working directory. All of these columns are very useful. That is it for this video. Thanks for watching.